Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judy Blake, and I am joined by my amazing colleague, Leslie Lawson. And we are here to present today our final in a series of classes. Leslie, you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Glad to see you here today.
Yes, wonderful. Oh, okay, no worries. Thank you for letting us know who you are on the iPhone. I appreciate that. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And if Leslie, if you would like to.
Judy, when you turn away, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting to do that. If you would like to go ahead and share your screen. Wonderful. And if you want to do
yeah, I was waiting for the thing to go away.
Yeah, no worries.
I wonder how I get that to go away at the top so I can see the.
Oh, and if you can't, don't worry. We can just go through it. It's no big deal.
Okay.
You can keep it like that. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Everybody can see it enough, I think. So again, this is a really safe place. No question is silly. If you don't feel comfortable asking a question, it's no problem. You can private message us if you like, and we'd be happy to answer your question anonymously. We know that the first couple of sessions were a lot, and we want you to be able to, hold on. I know, I just remembered.
Okay.
We want to be able to answer all of your questions, so please feel free to ask them. Good morning, Linda. Happy to have you join us. So just if you could, make sure that you mute yourself so everyone can hear you. We plan on finishing by 1 o'clock. And as you should have already received the first two slides, 2 decks of slides, I'm going to be sending you the remaining deck as well today. So next slide, please. So keeping the documents organized. Everybody has to have a system that works best for them, and you know what works best for you. So, I've done different things during the years. Hold on, let me let a few more people in. So you need to do what works best for you. I've had binders, I've had accordion files. Sometimes I had like manila folders for each school year. It just depends what works best for you. And then I would put them in a filing cabinet or on a shelf if I had a bunch of different binders. But you want to make sure that you're organized, because you don't want to kind of in an ARD meeting be ruffling through papers or saying, oh, I don't have that, or I can't find it. It really helps to have them organized so you can pull up information like you need to. Bring this with you to every ARD meeting and make sure that you have it on hand so that you can refer to it as needed, and you don't have to say, oh gosh, I don't remember. Go ahead, Leslie, sorry. So did you want to, we were concerned that there was some questions about procedural safeguards. So Leslie's going to go over that again.
Okay, so your procedural safeguards, that's your rights in case you don't agree with something that's decided in the ARD meeting. And basically, anytime they either are not going to do something that you've requested, or they're going to change something that maybe you don't agree with, they have to give you what's called prior written notice and give you a copy of your procedural safeguards. And you want to make sure, if you're in disagreement, to document your disagreement in the minutes of the ARD. And basically what your procedural safeguards, if you don't agree, you have the right to mediation, a complaint, or due process. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday and how that doesn't always mean that you're going to go through with that, because the TEA is going to ask the school to have a resolution meeting with you, and usually things get resolved then. So don't be afraid of that. If you need to disagree, and also about the 10-day or more recess where you would come back and try to come to an agreement again. And then if you still disagree, you would check disagree again. And then if you don't do anything after you check disagree again, then they can do what they want unless you use your procedural safeguards. And one thing we didn't talk about yesterday, and this may not apply to a lot of people if your kids aren't in school yet, but if your child is included or in a certain special education setting or regular education setting, and they want to change that and you don't agree with that, when you disagree, you have 5 days to file for due process and ask for something called stay put. And that way, until things get resolved, your child can stay in their current placement. There are a few exceptions, like with severe behaviors or something like that that's posing a threat. But I just wanted everybody to know about that stay put. And your procedural safeguards should be in a language you can understand, easy to understand. And the school has to translate it if needed. We really hope you'll go to this website on Texas Project First, and there's a great little video and lots more information about your procedural safeguards. So definitely take time to do that. When you get a copy of the slides, the link, you'll be able to click on the link, I believe, right, Judy?
Yes, because I'm going to send you the slides in a PDF format, and you should be able to click right on it. Not the most tech savvy. So, but yes, you should be able to. If not, you can just copy and paste the link. If we had endless time, I would be showing you all this video. It's a 13-minute video. Really, really watch it. It will be probably the best 13 minutes that you could spend, because it really explains procedural safeguards and why they matter and how you're protected during this process. So please, please do click on that link and do watch the video.
Okay, and so we talked about the ARD meeting or IEP meeting, and another great place to learn more is at Texas Project First at this link, and it takes you step by step through the whole process, which would be where you or ECI or anybody can refer a child for special education for an evaluation. And then the first thing you do, anytime there's an evaluation, there's always going to be a read, which is review of existing evaluation data. So just remember, a read is not any new evaluation or test or assessment, but it gets you started. So that kind of helps you determine what evaluations may need to be done. And then they're going to talk about your rights at the ARD meeting. And they're going to give you procedural safeguards. You do have to consent. They cannot do any evaluations without your consent. They're going to send you a paper, and that's your chance to find out what evaluations they're going to do, in case you say, oh, but I really think my child also needs to be evaluated for speech or OT if they left something off. Because remember, the first evaluation, there are timelines, and you want to get as much done then. And later, you can still ask for evaluations, and they have to get consent, but you have to kind of agree on a timeline. And then there's the whole evaluation process. And I really hope you'll go back to the IDEA manual and look at all of your rights and your child's rights during the evaluation process. You do have a lot of rights during that process, and you want to take advantage of those. Once the evaluation is done and you've received a copy of the evaluation reports, and you may also want to ask for, you definitely want to ask if if your child is going to be qualified for special ed, for a copy of any other draft IEP documents, the PLAF, present levels of performance, and evaluation reports ahead of time. So y'all can look them over, make sure they're right, make any changes if you need to, if there's something that maybe isn't a good picture of your child. And so you'll be prepared for the meeting. A lot of times I've found that it's very helpful to have a planning meeting with the teacher and or any other therapists that are going to be involved in the process ahead of time. So the ARD meeting's not a marathon, a long drawn out thing. Everybody kind of gets on the same page, and then the meeting's more of a formality. And then during the meeting, you're going to have somebody there that's taking minutes. It's really important if somebody says they're going to do something or not do something, or if you have very important information to share about your child that needs to be documented that the teacher would want to know about, like severe food allergies, or if your child is an escape artist and they need to be watched so they don't, leave the room or leave the campus. So you want to make sure and get everything documented that's not in the actual IEP document into the minutes of the meeting, and make sure we know who, what, when, where, and how everything's going to happen. You want to have a clear picture of that. And then once your child starts receiving services, there's going to be ongoing assessment and data collection. And we talked about a little bit about that yesterday. There should be data taken, otherwise they can't really give you a good report card or a meaningful report card. And you want to see, is your child making progress or not making progress? Because if they're not making progress, what do we need to do? What do they need to do differently? So your child can make appropriate progress in the curriculum and on their IEP goals and objectives. So there should be data collection. And then you would definitely look at the data, make recommendations. So we didn't really talk about this, but the school is required to reevaluate or consider reevaluation at least every 3 years. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't ask for a new evaluation sooner than that if your child's not making progress or is making a lot of progress. But you can't have new evaluation in the same area more than once a year. So that's just something to remember. And then a lot of times what happens when your child comes up for the 3-year reevaluation, the first thing, of course, they're going to do is they're going to do a read. They're going to, look back at all the existing data, the new data they've collected, any new assessments that were done since the first evaluation, or any new data that you may have. They definitely have to consider any evaluations or input from that you get from the outside. So they're going to do a read, and at that time, that's going to help them determine, do we need to do any new formal evaluations? And that's another chance for you. You can ask for a new evaluation as long as it hasn't already been done once a year at any time. Of course, you want to put that in writing, and in that IDEA manual, there are sample letters to help you request that. And like we talked about, put everything in writing. You know, we always want everything in writing. And you can go to Texas Project First to this link and click on each one. And there's so much good information. And if you're like me, I'm a very visual learner. And I know you're listening to me today, but once you see it, it really makes a lot of sense. Judy, do you want to add anything?
So no, that was fantastic. So Linda asked a great question. Do they decide what to evaluate the child on, and how do they decide that? Can we request the child to be evaluated on everything with the initial evaluation? Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So generally they have like a basic set of evaluations they're going to do, but they may do different evaluations, like depending on if you have an outside diagnosis, one thing, or if you, like for instance, let's say a lot of young children, we know they're delayed, but they don't really have a diagnosis. But you as the parent may see some things that prompt you to ask for a certain evaluation, like if your child doesn't have good fine motor skills for a child their age, or gross motor skills. Maybe they're not having a hard time walking, or maybe they can't hold a crayon or pick small things up, things like that, or maybe they're not talking as much as they should for their age. So that would prompt you, the first would prompt you for an occupational therapy evaluation. Or if they're not talking, or they're maybe not saying all their sounds correctly, or not talking at all, they would definitely want to do a speech evaluation. They may want to do a physical therapy evaluation. They're not going to just do everything. It's going to be based on how you answer their questions and any diagnosis that you already have. And one thing I would tell you too is they like to do IQ testing. And for really young children, I don't want anybody to get hung up on that, because even typical children, young children, IQs are not really that helpful at a real young age, because kids change so much and a lot depends on what they've already been exposed to. So don't let them use an IQ to segregate your child. And make sure if they're using an IQ test that it's a good IQ test for your child. So, and I gave the example yesterday about how when my son was 3 or 4 years old, they did a verbal IQ, and at the time he was nonverbal, and there are nonverbal IQ tests. They may do some type of behavioral evaluations, assistive technology evaluation, maybe sensory processing evaluation, but they're not going to just do everything. So bring up anything that you're concerned about. I hope that helps.
And let us know if that did not answer your question. Here is Texas Project First again. And just so you know, it's in both English and Spanish. And it's really great because it was written by parents for parents. And if you click on this link, when I send it to you, you'll see, sorry, allergies acting up. You'll see that you can go through each of these steps. And when you click on the blue link, it goes in depth even further. So really, really great reference there for you. Leslie, next slide. Thank you.
So there's going to be an agenda for the ARD meeting, and some schools will have that printed out and laminated on the table, but it's just kind of the order you go in. And if you click on this link for Texas Project First, it takes you all the way through the typical IEP or ARD agenda. And, you know, of course, first you're going to talk about evaluation and any data that's been collected. Then you're going to talk about your child's present levels of academic and functional performance. What can they do now? How do they do it? What do they need help with? What are their needs? So strengths and needs. And then based on that, you're going to develop annual goals and then also short-term objectives. And so like a short-term objective might be for the first 6 or 9 weeks. And then the next one might be for the next grading period. And so hopefully at the end of the year, you're going to hopefully your child will achieve the annual goal. And the present levels of academic and functional performance, that should be a very good picture of your child. And so if it's not, you need to speak up. If they say your child can't do something that they can do, or vice versa, you want to speak up and make sure that's a really good picture of your child, because that's how they're going to develop the goals and objectives. And you know, you don't want to have goals and objectives for something that your child can already do. And you want to have goals and objectives for things that your child is struggling with. So, and we're not talking about every little thing. It's going to be really important because remember, they're still going to be teaching the curriculum. And you can, we didn't talk about this, but you can find the curriculum for your child, like pre-K curriculum, so you can see what your student should be learning and kind of where they should be. You can find that online at the Texas Education Agency. And if you need help with that, and there's going to be links for that all over Texas Project First for every grade level. And then based on, after you get the goals and objectives, they're going to talk about supplementary aids and services. So, and accommodations and modifications. So what does your child need to make appropriate progress on the general ed curriculum and appropriate progress on their IEP goals? You know, do they need speech therapy or occupational therapy? Do they need any assistive technology? Let's see, do they need some in-class support in order to be included in the least restrictive environment? What do they need that's going to help them make appropriate progress in the general ed curriculum and on their IEP goals? And then we talked a little bit about accommodations and modifications. And you as the parent are going to be very helpful in this process because you know, how do you accommodate your child at home? Like when my child was young and he didn't speak, we used picture symbols, or I cut out pictures from his favorite things so he would have to request it instead of crying or whining for it. I taught him how to request that. So that would be something that they would need to provide there. Or maybe he needs a schedule. Maybe your child has trouble with transitions from one thing to the next. Do they need a visual schedule to help them with that so they know what's coming next and they're not upset when they have to leave one thing to move on to the next thing? And then last is going to be placement. Where is your child going to receive special education services? And like I said before, special education is a service. It's not a place. So the law is very clear that children should be educated in the least restrictive environment with appropriate supplementary aids and supports, and with their same age peers to the maximum extent appropriate. So what is that going to look like for your child? It doesn't automatically mean because they have a disability that they need to go in a segregated placement. You know, they should at least first try to accommodate them in the regular education environment, which we kind of talked about some of that the other day under options, preschool options. And we talked about pre-kindergarten and maybe private preschool and getting speech and OT through the school, or going half day, doing dual enrollment, or if they have a specialized program that you feel is appropriate for your child, definitely look at that. Just, it's really good to go and observe, because that's going to give you a good idea. Does that fit with your vision for your child for the future? Judy, you have anything else to say about that?
Oh, that was great. Just again, and I don't know, Leslie, if you have on a different screen, if you're able to show them what that looks like when you click on the link, or if it's on your different screen. If not, that's okay.
The Texas project first?
Yeah, Node 8. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I could probably find that at the end.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted
Okay.
to show it to you so you would see what it looks like, because it really does break it down for you step by step as to what you need to know. But no worries. If you want to
Okay.
go on to the next slide, that's great.
Okay. Judy, I'll let you talk about this one.
Sure. So the one-page profile, every child has strengths, and they also have their challenges. And what I used to do, I would probably say maybe a week or two after they had my child in their class, I would just say, hey, can I meet with you? This isn't an ARD. You know, can I do it on your planning period, your lunch hour? You know, hey, I'll bring you a sandwich. Or my thing is, I love to bake. So I would always bake for people. And teachers probably lost weight after my child left their class. They lost the baked goods when they lost my child and he moved on. But it's really important that they understand your child. And, you know, teachers are managing so much. They have a lot on their plate. I don't think I could be a teacher. So you may have a child that loves books, but has trouble understanding what the story is about. Maybe they have trouble with comprehension or what happens next. So you want to make sure that the teacher really understands your child, and a one-page profile is a really great tool. And you can actually Google examples of one-page profiles. I just did something really simple because I'm not that creative, and just kind of typed it out and everything. But that could help the teacher work better with your child. Let them know what your child's interests and hobbies are so that they can get to know them better. You know, some of our kids are fascinated by the most unusual things. I know people who, you know, my son loves the Avengers, or he went through his Star Wars phase, or he went through his political phase. I know somebody who would ask, what's your favorite periodic element? You know, or what's the capital of a foreign country? You know, everybody has their little quirks, and that's okay. But maybe let the teacher know, so that can be sort of like an icebreaker if they're not quite sure. And if your child is someone who likes something unusual, but all of those things are okay. And it's something that, oh, Sharafat, I love how you put, my child was obsessed with opening and closing doors and turning the light switch on and off. I know that one very, very much, or constantly touching the doorknob or checking to make sure that it's locked. And that's okay. That's just part of what makes your child. So, you know, my son sometimes had trouble with loud noises. My older son definitely with bright lights. And then also with thunderstorms. So if it's like projected, like, you know, you're driving your kid to school and the sky is like black, and, you know, maybe just shoot them a quick email. Hopefully they'll see it in time. Or if you know there's a thunderstorm coming, send them an email that says, hey, listen, just a reminder, Johnny gets really nervous when it's thundering and lightning and pouring rain. So if your window is open and he's staring out the window, or she's got her ears covered because of the thunder, just know that can be hard for them to concentrate. So, you know,
Can I say something about that,
no,
Judy?
absolutely.
So another thing too, if you have a child that has any medical needs, that could
Yes.
be listed on there. Like if my son had a seizure disorder, so I wanted to make sure they knew about that. I know some kids have a baclofen pump, things like that. It was really important for my son, for them to know, you know, how, what he liked and what was a reward for him, because like if my child had a behavior and they put him in timeout, that was not really a consequence for him. That was a reward because he liked being in timeout. So little things like that. Another thing I like to do in the one-page profile is tell them a little bit about their life outside of school. I always wanted Cameron to be included in the regular ed, so I tried to do that myself in the community. So, I would let him know, oh, he's in Cub Scouts and he's in a play group with some other kids in the typical kids in the neighborhood. And because if I was going to expect them to include him, I wanted them to know that I was doing that at home. He went to church with us, or just different things that we did outside of school that was with his typical peers. So, and the other important thing is, again, back to Texas Project First. And on Texas Project First, you can access information a lot of different ways. They do have a search up at the top. And if you search student portfolios, there's a whole section in there on how to create this that I think would be very helpful to you. Some people do like pictures and a whole little binder. Some people just do a one-page profile. Another thing that I wanted you to know about Texas Project First is you can click on different age ranges, and that'll give you appropriate information. So I just wanted you to know there's some really good samples of student portfolios, what we're calling today the one-page profile on Texas Project First.
No, that's great. And Jessica, you typed in, you were told by the allergy doctor that he needs an EpiPen at the school. And yeah, really, really important to know. I mean, obviously, if something is medically related like that, I certainly wouldn't wait until the first or second week of school. They need to know that right away. But for certain things that can wait, but a one-page profile is really great. Are there certain foods they like or don't like? These are just kind of maybe conversation starters that, teachers can have with our kids. And then anything else you want them to know. But I used to do that. And I asked the teachers, be honest, besides giving them dessert, was this meeting helpful? And it really was. I've been divorced for over 20 years. And I think that, it was important for the teachers to know. I would shoot them an email Sunday night to say, hey, listen, didn't get a lot of sleep over the weekend, out of their routine. Just kind of want to let you know that because they may be affected the next day at school.
One thing too that to think about too, and this really just came up because I don't know if you saw in the news about the little boy that left the campus in Katy, and he had on a tracker bracelet, but guess what? There were all subs in that classroom that day, and they didn't know anything about that. So I've just really been thinking about that. And I think if your child does elope or needs an EpiPen, has a food allergy, or if there's anything really important, make sure your teacher has like a laminated thing either on the wall or on her desk for substitutes to know these important things. I've always put it in my IEP, in my son's IEP, that if he was going to have a sub that on a day, to notify me so I can make the decision whether or not I want to send him that day. So just think about things like that too.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Leslie, because I'll never forget, my son was pulled out for something I forget what if it was for resource, because he didn't need a little extra help in something. And, the class was just out of control. I'll never forget, this was in middle school. And the substitute teacher's like, I don't want to hear anything else. I want you all to be quiet. And Jason was like trying to raise his hand. I just said, I don't want to hear anything else. And, the sub was overwhelmed. The class was out of control. And it was really, really challenging. Well, within a few minutes, you could see that my son was visibly upset. So then the teacher went up to him and said, like, what's wrong? Well, you told me not to talk. Because again, they're rule followers. Well, you can talk now. I'm supposed to go to resource. Oh, well, okay, then go ahead. And he was just in tears because then he was late for resource and he didn't want to be late. So yeah, having subs can be really, really challenging, really challenging. So helpful resources. We talked about some of these and I wanted it to be on one complete page. Not sure about the special education process, texasprojectfirst.org. There you go. Written by parents for parents. Sometimes you might have to search a little bit for your answer. It's not like Google, where you type in the question and you get 5 million answers. You might have to search for it a little bit because our phrase or our wording might be a little bit different than what you put in, but it really is complete and accurate information. If your child is birth to 5 years old, this is a wonderful resource, and it's called parentcompanion.org. We mentioned it the other day, and it can just help you with all sorts of tips. Special education, doctors, support, all sorts of things. Really, really great website, and I believe that's in English and Spanish as well. So believe it or not, you can actually talk to a live person. It's called spedtex.org. So when you go to that website, they'll list the phone number in the upper right-hand corner. You can also email them a message or you can call them. And I think they have regular business hours. They're probably off for school holidays, but I know they're there during the summertime because I've talked to them. And granted, they are probably many of them former administrative people that work there, but they're knowledgeable and they can advise you on, my hope is, what the process would be and what the law is and what your rights are. Because we know sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to understand, where you might request something and the school says no. Well, maybe the school is right. Maybe this isn't something that is an appropriate accommodation. I don't know. So you can call sometimes to ask them, is this appropriate? And they should be quoting you what the law is if you can't find it on Texas Project First.
Can I say
Yes,
something
ma'am.
about?
Sure.
I just use SpedTex a lot if there's something I don't know when I'm trying to help a parent. So one example is the other day, a parent called and their child is getting homebound services due to a medical issue, and they're in special ed. And they were told that if their child was getting homebound, they could not receive their speech therapy. And that didn't sound right to me, and it didn't sound right to the parent. So I hopped on SpedTex, and they also have a chat. And I like to do it in writing because, so I got on there and asked them the question, and they said, okay, I'm going to have to look this up because they weren't really sure. And I left them my email, and then about 20 minutes later, they emailed me the answer, and then I had it in writing and I was able to send it to the parent. And then the parent had it in writing that this was from SpedTex, which is through one of our region education service centers. So schools are very familiar with them and know that they provide real appropriate information. And so then the parent could take that, or if you did it yourself, you could take that and show it to the school and, I know you told me this, but look what I found out. So I do like to get stuff like that from SpedTex in writing.
And that's a great idea. And if you decide to call them, what you can do then is follow up with a chat that says, I want to make sure I understood this, because sometimes I find when I'm back and forth and back and forth, and it's maybe not such a simple question, sometimes I like to talk it through with somebody first and then say, okay, this is what I understand in the chat box. And yes, Leslie's absolutely right. Print it off and bring it to your ARD meeting. Really helpful. So another fabulous website, Navigate Life Texas. When I say it's in every language you can imagine, I wrote Spanish, Chinese, and I think that's Hindi I copied. It is in every language. And, you know, we live in such a diverse city that with all of these different languages, that it really helps. Navigate Life Texas talks about everything from birth to the early years, to middle school, to transition to adulthood, to the Medicaid waivers, all sorts of things. Really credible websites that we've listed here. Feel free to share them with others, and we think you'll find them really helpful. Please, please remember, you are not alone. We're here at Family to Family Network to help. There's support groups, there's credible websites, there's people that you can call. We talked about the Medicaid waivers. If that still doesn't make sense to you, please let us know so we can send you more information. But basically what you're going to do is your child needs to be signed up on what we call an interest list. If you live in Harris County, please call. And in fact, oh, Leslie, can you, oh, I can.
It's on their slide from yesterday.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Thank you for that
Yes.
reminder.
And another thing that's on the slide from yesterday is a link to Navigate Life Texas that's
Okay.
about waivers, and there's a little video. And basically all I can say is you need to do that's the first thing you need to do this
Yes.
week or next week.
If there's anything, please, please sign your child up on the waiver. There's 2 numbers that you need to call. One is in Austin for the class waiver list and other waivers. And then what we call your local authority that we talked about. If you're in Fort Bend County, it would be Texana. If you're in the Conroe area, it's Tri-County. If you're in Houston, Spring Branch, it's probably going to be the Harris Center. And you call them and you just say, I want to sign my child up for the waivers. Please know, regardless of your income, once the name comes up, because it's going to take 12 to 15 years, by that time, your child will be an adult and your income will not be taken into account.
Well, even if you get called, like my son was not an adult, when he came up on the waiver, they only look at the child's income.
Mhm.
So
Good
yeah,
to-
don't think that your income is going to knock you out of the waiver. And there is a crisis diversion slot on one of the waivers. So if you ever get in a crisis situation, you may be able to get the HCS waiver quicker.
So for those of you who are on social media, if you're on Facebook, please like us. Leslie's on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, would love to be your friend. We share a lot of important information. We do have an e-digest that you all should, now that you've signed up and enrolled in our classes, that you should be getting, but oftentimes it goes in your junk folder, it goes in your spam folder, and people don't, you might not even see it. So, but if you want to be on Facebook, by all means, we would love to have you like us. And then we share really great information about legislation, changes in the law, social groups. If something is going to be a sensory friendly event, we definitely do that. And we're always promoting, you know, activities that are beneficial for our kids and young adults. And really try to remember that your child can achieve so much. They just may take a little longer to get there. They may need some accommodations. Maybe they need sitting in the front. Maybe they need some type of technology. They may need modifications. Maybe their test is a little bit different. than the other classmates. Maybe instead of giving 20 spelling words, maybe they're being given 10 spelling words. But that's okay, because they're your child. They have so much to offer, and the last chapter is never written. And our kids can do so much. They have so much potential. We have to meet them where they're at, raise the bar, and believe in them and advocate for them. Questions. If you don't feel comfortable asking, you can by all means write it in the chat box, or you can private message us if you don't feel comfortable asking everyone. We want to make sure that you've enjoyed this, that you found it beneficial. People take these classes for hours on end and for weeks. So we really had to give you a snapshot. And I hope that this was helpful. Leslie hopes it was helpful. The next slide is the survey link again. And I don't think everyone completed the survey from the other day. So if you could, please make sure that you do that one as well. It's the same link. Just let us know, hey, on Wednesday, this is what I learned, or on Wednesday, this could have been more beneficial to know, or could you have done this differently? So if you didn't take it on Wednesday, just make sure that you distinguish which one you are completing. Leslie, if you want to go back and just show them the survey link again, that might be helpful.
Okay.
That would be great. And then,
Oh, we can't hear you.
oh, sorry, I'm going to also type it in the chat box.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yep. Oh, I think I did actually. Yeah, I already did that. So, yeah, because we needed that for someone else. So if you go to the top, I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. But please, please, we want to know how we did. We want to know what we can change for future classes. I always say that the day I stop learning is the day I stop living. And it's really important that we grow and that Leslie and I learn from this. And we learn so much from our parents.
Another thing I was going to say, if you have a child with a specific disability and need more information on that, like for instance, if you have a child on the autism spectrum and you'd like to learn more about the autism supplement or something like that, just let us know and we can send you some more specific information about that.
So if you all could just unmute yourselves and please, let us know, did you find this helpful? We wanted to kind of touch on certain things and then refresh other things and then introduce just a couple of new things. But I hope that we hope that you found it helpful. Is there anything that you would like us to add? Any takeaways that you learned from this that you want to share with the group?
I would like to go first. First off, I would like to say thank you because it has been a great learning experience. It has been very helpful. I was actually stressing a little bit about that transition coming in soon. But the biggest takeaway I got is to make sure I keep documentation of everything because that's something I don't tend to do. So just
Hi.
Hey.
That's something I didn't tend to do with all the paperwork, but I would for sure be doing that, making sure that I ask for everything in writing.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Bye-bye. Is that what she said? Bye-bye?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's
Oh, okay. So thank you so much for sharing that. And Sharafat, thank you for your comment. Sharafat wrote, yes, it's been very helpful. Thank you for taking the time to make it as simple to digest as possible. And that's really what our goal was in all of this. We know that you're starting out. We know that there is so much information. And, sometimes you ask 5 different people and you'll get 8 different opinions. So we're so glad. We still have a few minutes left. Leslie, anything you wanted to add and anything anyone else wanted to share?
I would just say, reiterate that you're the parent and you know your child's best, and always go with your gut. If you feel something's not right, make sure you explore it. I, I would definitely try to have a good relationship with all the people that work with your child and have good communication with them. That's helpful. And I know when I first started advocating for my son, at first, some of the people at his school were not used to parents doing that so much. And they got a little put off by me, and I was being nice, but they just weren't used to it. But once they saw that I really wanted to work with them and I had a lot of valuable information to share about my child, they really embraced me. And it really helped us have a really good relationship with the school throughout the years. I mean, not that there weren't bumps in the road. There were some times where I did disagree, but if you keep your emotions in check and you treat them like you want to be treated, definitely it works out really good, hopefully.
And Jessica had asked about the where we sign up for the Medicaid.
For the what? We can't hear you.
Jessica, I'm so sorry. She had asked about where we sign up for the Medicaid waivers. So what I'm doing, Jessica, is parents need to call this number for the Harris Center if they live in Harris County, and tell them that they want to sign up for HCS and Texas Home Living, because those are the two waivers that the Harris Center coordinates. You can ask the Harris Center for the number in Austin to sign up for class and other waivers. If anyone on this call has a child diagnosed with autism, intellectual disability, sign up for the waivers. Again, the diagnosis may change. Maybe your child doesn't qualify, but get them on that list because it is 12 to 15 years long. And if your child has a speech delay, still sign up. Maybe it's later diagnosed as something else.
Or even just a physical disability. If
Right.
For class, like a good example is a friend of mine, her son had cerebral palsy, and he had normal IQ and everything, but he still needed supports as he got older. And so there's different waivers for different things. So get on as many waivers as you think. There's also MDCP. That's if you have a child with a lot of medical issues. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is their waiting list is somewhat shorter because not as many children have the medical issues. And another thing is if your child has Medicaid already, they may be eligible for some other services like personal care services or community first choice. And all of this is on the slides that we sent yesterday on that last page. But if you have any questions about it, there's even a link for comparing the waivers side by side. So if you have any questions about any of that, let us know. And I know it's a long wait, but we're constantly talking to our legislators about how these waiting lists shouldn't be so long. Some states don't have a wait like this, but Texas is not very good about funding them. So think about getting involved in that too. If you go to the ARC of Greater Texas, you can sign up, and every time there's something in the legislative session that affects people with disabilities or children with disabilities, they'll send out a little notice and they'll even compose the letter for you. And you can change it if you want, but you just add in your name and then you hit it and it sends to your representative. So if we all do that, you know, hopefully our representatives will know, okay, we need these changes for our children. We don't need to wait 15 years to get disability services. Because I think about my son, if he didn't have to wait 9 years, how much further along would he have been if we could have gotten private therapy? Because we didn't have private insurance that would cover private therapies. So the only therapies he was getting were through school. But what would have happened if we could have gotten that while he was little? So definitely think about getting involved in that. And I know we're giving you a lot. I don't want anybody to be overwhelmed. I always say, take one thing at a time, do the most important thing, check that off your list, and then go to the next thing, because it is hard being a parent of a child with a disability sometimes. And I definitely say, if you can join a support group, even if it's just online, and Family to Family does have some support groups going. We do it by the age range. If you go to our website, Family to
And I
Family.
just posted it there, Leslie.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
I posted our website in the chat box. We actually have an upcoming webinar on November 3rd, all about Medicaid waivers and explaining them. But our website has a lot of information and about our support groups, our event schedule, everything.
Yeah, if you talk to other parents who are going through the same thing, it really helps. And I find that I get a lot of good information from other parents, like, oh, where's your child going to speech therapy or horseback therapy, or you know, what preschool, or what, you know, where can we go to be around, to take our kids to be around other kids? Oh, we go to this little gym in the neighborhood, or whatever. I find it very helpful to connect with other parents.
So we did have, and I know if you have to sign off, I completely understand, it's 1 o'clock. A parent asked, my child is delayed in speech, but how would we get to know about another developmental delay like autism? So it depends on, well, Leslie, you can answer this probably better than I can, but I was going to say, when was your child evaluated? If they were just evaluated, you know, 2 or 3 months ago, I don't know that I would evaluate again, but maybe in a few months, you can ask the school to evaluate, or the Harris Center, if you're in Harris County. If you're in Fort Bend County, it's Texana. You can ask them to evaluate your child as well. Some insurance companies cover it. You can go to a neurologist, you can go to a developmental pediatrician, and we can send you a list as well if you would like. Leslie, did you want to add to that?
The only other thing, and I don't know the specifics, but I believe now most pediatricians, if they see a delay, they're required to do.
Oh, the MCHAT, that's right.
The MCHAT, yeah, couldn't think, which is for autism.
Thank you.
It's like a little checklist. And then if they had concerns, they would refer you. I'll tell you though, our pediatrician, of course, Cameron's older, that never said anything, even though he wasn't talking. It was just like, oh, his brother, who is very close in his age, talks for him. Sometimes second kids don't talk as fast. And it was actually a neighbor who her son was in ECI, and one day she said, I want to talk to you about something, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I really think your child needs to be evaluated through ECI. ECI will not, a lot of times will not tell you anything specific, but they should tell you if you do need to take your child to see a specialist. They should maybe mention that, I think, because I feel like we didn't actually get an ECI till he was 2.5. So we didn't have but maybe 6 months, but it was good because then we had the transition from ECI to the public school, and ECI was very helpful in that process for us. And but yeah, if you have any concerns, definitely, reach out if you need to go to a developmental pediatrician or like a neurologist. And, the school was the first person that ever said autism to us. So once the school said, we believe your child's on the autism spectrum, then I took Cameron and confirmed that diagnosis outside of the school. And you can do that with a neurologist, a developmental pediatrician, or there are some psychologists also that specialize in that.
Yeah, that's great. Leslie, you want to stop sharing your screen so we can just see everybody?
Okay.
Thanks. So yeah, so just by all means, let us know if you have, questions. We're glad you found this helpful. That's what we do. We want to help. We want to be there for families. We want to help them navigate as best they can. If there isn't anything else, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And Leslie, if you could stay on for just a quick minute.
I was going to ask you something, Judy.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody, if they wanted to be on the next set of classes, like
Mhm.
listening in.
Absolutely.
I know we'll be repeating everything.
Great idea. But if you want to hear again,
helpful.
if
Yeah.
you're not sick of us, we'd love to have you again.
Yeah.
On the list because clearly you've already been, but at least I won't count you as new. So yes, if you want to, by all means,
And
absolutely.
if you come across anything that we didn't cover that comes up,
Sure.
that you have questions about, please reach out to us.
Yes. Okay, so you don't even have to sign up, Sharafat. You just have the schedule because it was in the original one that I sent. And what I will try to remember to do, and if I forget, gosh, please remind me, is when I send you the slide deck, I'll send you the schedule again, so that in case you want to sign up for future classes.
And we're going to have some in Spanish, right?
Yes, they will all be in Spanish. All future classes will definitely be
Have translation.
simultaneous translation. Now, how that works on your iPhone, I don't know, that's above my technology level, but on your screen, you will click interpretation and then it will, you'll choose Spanish so you'll be able to hear it. I don't know how you do that on a phone. But parents do have to register, not ECI coordinators or community members or social workers or case managers. But if you're a parent, you do need to register because it falls under our grant guidelines, and they can email me at, let me put it in the chat box. Yes, they need to email me and provide their name, the age of their child, and their email and cell number. And then I'll reach out to them. And some people I don't need to ask as many questions because they just want to learn, but they are not under the grant guidelines. But if your child is birth to 5, if your child is under-resourced in any way, then of course, by all means, we want them and we would love to help. So you can go ahead and sign off unless there's anything else. Claudia, so glad you joined us.
Thank you.
And I wish you all a great weekend. And if you want to join again, we look forward to seeing you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.